You came over here as a refugee, yeah?
Yeah.
At what, like, was it 6 months, yeah?
6 months old, yeah.
Obviously, that's such an early stage in anyone's life, so I can't even be like, so what was it like when you first... Do you know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
like, was there ever, like, a part of you when you kind of grew up, like, especially when you grew up within Southwest London, yeah, that felt like... Because the reason why I ask is, like, growing up in a household where your parents are so connected from where they're from, but also... like their home is not in a place of comfort. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like your home life is what home life, I don't know if this is right, but like, was it a way like in terms of like you growing up and what you experience in your home life would be different to other people's home life because your parents are then trying to connect with where they're from. Does that make sense?
You have to grow up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Because there's... essentially what happens is just by virtue of growing up here, your English is better and your understanding of the culture here is much more it's much more rich as opposed to your parents because they're still trying to like find their feet. I mean, it's so funny because sometimes I'm like in my 30s, right? And I look around and I'm like, life is hard, isn't it? Like, and then you're imagining trying to learn a new language, and like you said, like having the trauma of not knowing if your family are alive. Like you it wasn't like now where you had FaceTime and stuff as well. You had to go out in a phone boxes and put like pound coins in and have one of those calling cards that you'd call and whatever.
Yeah.
So I often think about how hard that was, and it's like you've got all of these different pressures, and you're trying to raise kids as well, which is it's got its own challenges. But then as the eldest in that sort of environment, it's like, what's this person saying on the phone? And you're like talking to the gas man or like talking to like the electricity company. Do you know what I mean? And you're like 8 or 9 years old, or like. And it even becomes certain things as well. Like there's elements of things that you're responsible for. So you're aware of certain things that kids shouldn't be aware of, just around the household or just within life.
What did you have to be responsible for at that age, like at a young age?
Well, you sort of understand how things work in the world, like bills and that sort of. Do you see where I'm coming from? Like but you don't really have a concept of that. I think if you're normal. You know, if you're just growing up and your parents are taking care of everything, you don't sort of have any idea how that goes. I remember filling out forms for my parents because they were like, your handwriting's better than ours, like in English. Wow. Right, so you're like 9 years old filling out, or like we're like changing GPs and I'm filling out everybody's forms as like to register.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because they couldn't do it, but they were like, oh yeah, you've just got better handwriting. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like you're there going, all right, that's Dad's form. That was Mum's. That's my brother's.
Because there's enough people that I went to school with, and that was their home life as well. You know, like when you go to parents' evening and stuff.
Oh yeah. And
like some people's parents they don't have great English, so they have to translate.
One of my friends, his mum didn't speak a single word of English, and he was translating, and I know he was getting like. The teachers were like, he just needs to apply himself a bit better, and he's telling his mum, Mum, she said I smashed it, like, and then you're like, how did you not get in trouble? He's like, my mum don't speak English, and you're like, oh man, like you got a cheat code, like my mum and dad knew when like the teacher was going, oh, he speaks too much. I was like, I remember one time my dad rang home. Sorry, somebody rang my dad. Because they were like, oh, he was misbehaving in class, bro. I didn't eat that night, bro. Like, I was sent to my because my parents were like, look, man, you've got everything here, like in comparison to them. Like, what? So
was there always like growing up? Was there always that comparison of like where you are now and what home like what back home is like? Was there always like a comparison?
I mean, it's just like you. As I get older, I see it from my dad's perspective, right? So it's like, can you imagine like you're disabled, right? And like you're doing your best you can for your kids and whatever. Like the way you grew up is completely different. He grew up at a time where like from 16 years old he was part of the resistance fighting against Saddam Hussein's regime. So he's like distributing leaflets and putting his life at risk and whatever. And it's just like you come to a different country because you've been injured in battle and stuff, and then like. You've given birth to this child and it's like going, oh, I don't want cornflakes. It's like, bro, shut up and eat your cornflakes, man. do you know what I mean? Like, you sort of like think about like the problem. Oh man, like Dad, can I get a new game? What do you mean new game, bro? You've got like You've got an N64. Do you know how I had to do to buy that N64 for you?
Yeah.
And you're there moaning. So like, as you get older, you sort of understand it. And I feel like, as children, you don't give your parents grace at that point in time. But I think you grow older, and obviously you see the challenges of life in itself. And I think we're in a position where we're quite fortunate with what we do. We've sort of made something of ourselves that wouldn't have been possible if we were doing just normal jobs.
Like 20 years ago. If we was at the age we was now, like 20 years ago, to be able to do what we do as a job, it in some ways wouldn't really exist to be a job for us.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
You're thinking like, and it's always hard as well. Like that question where people go, "Oh, like, what did your parents think of it?" And it's just like, my parents didn't have a concept that this could make you money, bro. Like this is why when people go, how did you have that self-belief that you were going to make it? And I was like, bro, I had to make it to make sure that they knew that do you know what I mean? I didn't just waste so much of my life, bro. Like it's all or nothing, right? Because you've probably been in a position as well, like where you're like mid to like getting to like late 20s and your mum's going, yo, like I need this, that, the other, and you feel like inadequate as a man as well, innit? Because you're like, what am I still doing here? Or you want to take a girl out and whatever, and you're like seeing your friends in corporate jobs, driving around in like nice whips, and you're just there like,
my end of my 20s were like that, because I felt like end of your 20s is where you start seeing like everyone else in their 20s in different places.
Life gets real. That's the way I describe it. Yeah.
Do you know what it is as well? Though I feel like end of your 20s is like, because there's some people who are the same, like you'd be like same age, and you're like, we're in the same kind of position.
Yeah,
like, we both got a real retail job here and there, but then like you can be like 26, and you'll see a 29-year-old, and they're like, yeah, man, I just bought a car, and you're like, what the fuck? Look at that car. And that's just a car. Do you know what I mean? And then there's other ways where you could be, I don't know, 28, and then you meet someone who might be 26 who's like, yeah, I've just got a flat.
Yeah,
and you're like, brother,
mind is scattered.
Where am I in this in this life? What am I doing? And I think that's why, like, that end of your 20s period, bro, it is all over the place, man.
Yeah.
It's so all over. Yeah,
and it gets worse in your 30s, because it's like people. It's weird. Like there's this acceleration point where like some people around you just vroom, like they're feels like they're running past you, and you're just like, that's when like. For what we do, for example, when you're doing comedy, you start thinking like, bro, like, am I even in the right? Am I even doing the right thing in it? Because we had part-time jobs for ages, innit? Like while you're doing it, and you're like, you're trying to swap shifts to do a gig here and there, and you're looking around, and it's like people are like starting families and like you said, buying flats and stuff, and you're just like, I am so far from that right now, and it's scary at one point, because when you're in the midst of that, you're like, where's the way out? Where is this coming from? And I know people say like you have to keep faith, but honestly, sometimes it's hard. This is why when people tell me like, what's the one thing you could tell people about success? I'm like, be delusional, because if I wasn't delusional, there's no way I would have kept at it. You think I would have been working at Apple till I was 29?
Yeah, man. Yeah. You have to think so big that it's like, that ain't gonna happen. But
yeah. I mean, obviously within reason, innit? Like,
of course. But it's true though. It's that's a great point you brought up, man. Because I know we've both done the retail stint. Do you know what I mean? Like
more than a stint, bro.
Bro, I said a stint, bro. We was in the trenches of retail, boy. But like.
Towards the end, man, I got to a stage where like I was done with customer service, man.
Why? What was it about it?
Bro, I just done live at the Apollo, right? Yeah, and then I'm going back into work the next day, and someone's arguing about me about a charger. I was like, do you know who I am? I'm that guy, bro. This is it's mad, because you would do, I'm sure you've experienced it, where you do a massive gig in front of like a theatre, and then the next day you're at work and someone's asking you for a different size, and you're just like,
do you know what it was for me? Where I think when I look back at retail, especially during that stage of like where you got, you're doing a show on the weekend and you go in on Monday or whatever, and for me it wasn't always the customers, it was the other people I worked with.
Yes.
And it would be people I'm like, right, like, I'm normally cool with you as a supervisor. But then it's like, you know what I do on the side, innit? Like, allow me, innit? Like, I'm cool. Like, I get on with you cool, innit? But then it's like today you want to be this new person, and you're like, let's go. We have to go outside, you know. I don't know how I feel about this now, man. And I think that for me was always my thing about retail. I feel like, luckily, I was able to always pick retail jobs that was like, okay, I like working in there. I can see myself in there. It was sometimes it's the people I worked around. And you know what? It's the shift of like, you probably had this where you work with one batch of people, you're like, great, my people. You know in your head, you're like, I could work here forever, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've got my people. And then it changes. New manager comes out, new supervisor. Yeah. Someone comes in. Yeah, you're meant to be on the floor too.
Yeah.
It's now 2:05. Yeah. And you're like, yo, are you, is this, Who are you trying to impress?
I still have nightmares about like clocking in. Like genuinely, there's two reoccurring nightmares I get.
Clocking in.
There's two reoccurring nightmares I get. One is clocking in at work.
Yeah.
And like I've forgotten I've forgot to clock in.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm I'm stressed. And then the other one is I've forgotten to give him my dissertation.
Yes, what's good, people? My name is Mo Gilligan, and you just watched my podcast highlights of the beginning, middle, and end podcast. Now, if you did like this, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you want to catch the whole thing, I'm talking the whole juicy thing, make sure you go listen to it on the Global Player or wherever you catch your podcast. Take care. Peace.